What's up, guys? Sode back with you. Better Off Dead. Tuesday, June 3rd. Sweep on the show yesterday, baby. Small baseball card or small baseball board, and it was a 2-0 day yesterday. A complete sweep because I did have both bets being split, money line, run line bets, and they totally swept. So if you guys played run line, money line on both of those, either one, didn't matter. All of it was a win, baby. San Diego Padres, I mean, that was close. It was 0-0 going into extra innings, and the Padres were able to get it done 1-0, which part of the handicap was the situational spot, the bullpen rest scenario. I thought that was a little bit advantageous to the Padres, who also do have the better bats. They were able to get it done, even though Wnba went 8 shutout innings. Padres combined for a complete shutout, so that was good. That worked. And then the Twins probably should have been easier than it was. I mean, they had a 6-0 lead almost right out of the gate. And with Joe Ryan being your pitcher, it's like that's probably going to last. But he actually gave up 4 runs. I mean, pitching in that A's stadium is, I guess, not exactly easy. So he did a little bit worse than expected. But Minnesota scored so much, it didn't even matter. I mean, the handicap on Severino was definitely right. He's terrible at home. He got destroyed for 8 runs, even though he didn't even allow a home run. So, again, that's been his thing at home. He gives up a lot of runs, even though he's not giving up that many home runs. Minnesota was able to pad the lead a little bit after they let it slip to 6-4. They pushed it back up, and they wound up winning 10-4, I think was the final. So those are both wins. So 2-0, baby. So that works out for us. David, what's up, man? Thanks for hanging out again. I'm going to give out one WNBA play, which I actually gave out yesterday on the show. So if you guys are paying attention to that, you would have gotten a little bit of a better number on it. But I still like it either way. And I will give out 2 Major League Baseball plays today, which are really, really crazy. And they sound terrible. So this is going to be fun. Let's talk about... Well, we can talk about WNBA first, I guess. I'll just clarify one more time. I'm not actually putting money on these right now. Unfortunately, yesterday, because yesterday was a nice 2-0 little Monday there. But I am still doing the handicapping. I'm still giving out picks as if I was betting. I do still want to talk about NFL season win totals at some point, which I may do that show, I don't know, some night at some point this week. And then I will be talking about the Belmont Stakes because I've been talking about the Triple Crown horse races. So I will talk about that at some point before the race on Saturday as well. All right, let's get into it. WNBA. I already gave out this play on the show yesterday. It was at 3.5 yesterday, but we can call it 3.5, 4. I don't think there's that much of a difference. Indiana Fever. I like laying the points with Indiana here, man. I mean, nobody's really going to want to do this. Indiana was actually up to 4.5, though, so some money came in dropping it back down to 4, but I actually think there's value on this, and I think it's a better spot for Indiana than some of the spots they've been in. The public isn't really going to want to have anything to do with this if they're looking at WNBA because it's like, why would you want to take Indiana without Caitlin Clark when they haven't won a single game without her? Yeah, that's all true, but they're playing the Washington Mystics, who are not very good, but the public's going to be looking and thinking, well, the Mystics just beat the Fever, so again, why would you want to lay points with the Fever here? Again, I think that it's a better spot for the Fever here. And if they did just lose to the Mystics, which they did on the road, which that was a game with Caitlin, that was without Caitlin Clark. That was actually the injured player spot. So Caitlin Clark got injured in this tough game against the New York Liberty. Indiana was coming off that. And I mentioned, yes, it's an injured player spot, and I still kind of leaned that way to Indiana stepping it up in the next game. But they were coming off that tough game against the Liberty, man. So it wasn't exactly the greatest spot for Indiana. And yeah, they lost that game to Washington. Indiana was a 3.5-point favorite in that game on the road without Caitlin Clark. And now they're a 3.5-point favorite basically at home without Caitlin Clark. So yeah, I think there is value on Indiana because if they were 3.5 in that game, yeah, maybe it was a little bit too high, but still, I don't see how you justify the line being 3.5 or 4 at home. I think it should be closer to about 5, 5.5 in this game, in my opinion. And Indiana hasn't won since then. They just lost to the absolutely abysmal Connecticut Sun, who didn't have a win this entire season at home. Indiana was an 11.5-point favorite, and they lost that game. So I think you're going to get a pissed, focused Indiana team here, man. And Indiana, they actually did lose 2 more players in this game who are more of their role players. And one of them, I forget their names. One of them is actually not going to be back in this game, but because she is a role player, Sophie Cunningham, I think she's more of a role player. I mean, she doesn't have like crazy stats or anything, so I think they could still accommodate for her loss. And they did actually just pick up McDonald, whoever the hell that is, who used to be on the LA Sparks. I guess she was a really high draft pick a couple of years ago. So yeah, the Fever are going to have to work her into the lineup, but I'm not too worried about that because for the most part, their lineup is going to be the same as it was the last couple of games. And again, they're coming off just a ridiculous loss on the same floor at home. So I think they're going to be way better equipped to win this game. They're going to make the adjustments after they beat Washington. And now Washington's coming off a game against the Liberty, although I know it wasn't close. They got pretty much destroyed, which, of course, the Liberty are way better than Washington. But Washington is coming off that game. And yeah, Washington did shoot terribly in that game, so they probably should shoot better this time. But against Indiana, it was a bit of an outlier kind of game there. Indiana just shot terribly in this game, 39.7% from the field and 23.8% from three-point range. I kind of expect that to be different this time out, especially on the Fever home floor. I think they're going to play a much better game. They're still the better team, even though they actually have the worst record right now, and they have not won without Caitlin Clark. I think this is going to be where they actually get it done. They're going to be the team that has the adjustments to make here against a Washington team that's really, really beatable. So Indiana Fever is going to be the play I'm giving out in the WNBA. I don't love the future bets. You're right. Like, yeah, having your money tied up that long, it's just kind of ridiculous because I don't bet that much. Like when I was betting to win 300 on every single game, and making that same bet and having 300 tied up for an entire season is kind of like stupid. It feels like you should put more money on it, but you don't want to put that much money on any single bet either. So I don't really do that much with the futures. I've done some in the past, but yeah, I mean, it's just the length of time you have your money tied up is just really, really annoying. So I don't love it. But yeah, so Indiana will be the play there. Phoenix and Minnesota, kind of an interesting one. I'm going to lean to Minnesota in this game. I mean, they are undefeated right now, and I keep telling you that Phoenix is not as good as their 5-2 record would indicate, although they beat me the other night, and they beat me 2 of their games in a row, I think, actually, because I had Minnesota. I gave out that as a play on the show against Phoenix. So both of my recent WNBA losses, I'm 4-3 now in WNBA, and 2 of the losses are fading Phoenix. But I still think it was the right move. I still think Minnesota should have covered this one. I think LA should have won and covered their game as well. Now, Minnesota, they had that game against Phoenix. Actually, wait, did I have Minnesota in this one? I don't remember. Actually, I don't think I did. Never mind. I think I had Minnesota against Seattle. My apologies. So I didn't have them in this game. Never mind. But Minnesota, they just were a 4.5-point favorite on the road against Phoenix. And this was a close call, man. Minnesota was losing most of this game to Phoenix. Even though Phoenix didn't shoot well at all, but Minnesota also had a really bad shooting game here. Minnesota is still the significantly better team here, so I think Minnesota is in more of a bounce-back spot. The one thing that you do have to worry about a little bit is they are returning home from a road trip that took them out to the West Coast, even though these are short road trips in the WNBA. But still, when you come back home, it is a little bit of a distraction spot in these daily sports. But I still think they're going to be focused because Phoenix gave them a game last time out. Phoenix is coming off that tough game and then pulling off a road upset against LA. Now they're having to travel from the Pacific Coast out to Minnesota as well, so not the easiest travel spot for Phoenix there. And I think this looks a bit misleading, right? Because you're going to say Minnesota's a double-digit favorite here, and they're up against a Phoenix team that only has 2 losses. So it looks like, I think to the public eye, it's going to, even though Minnesota's undefeated, it's going to look like this line is way too big, but I don't really think that it is. I think Phoenix, nowhere near as good as their record looks. Minnesota is one of the best teams in the league. I would lean to Minnesota in this game, and they're going to have more of the motivation, I think, to beat Phoenix more easily than they did the previous game, because Phoenix did give them that scare not that long ago. So I think Minnesota will be the team to adjust more. They are up from 10.5 to 12 now, so you are losing a little bit of line value on that one if you do want to lay that one. And it does look like Indiana's moving back up again, by the way. And then we have Dallas at Seattle. I mean, Dallas, I've talked about them. I mean, they're probably going to improve as the season goes on, but right now they're still trying to get that chemistry going. Seattle is actually a lot better than they look right now at a 3-4 record. Seattle's actually trying to get some chemistry as well because they've kind of stacked their roster this year, and they're trying to get used to all this new talent that they have there. Seattle is probably the right side in this game, but I'm not going to do anything with it. Dallas, I mean, they've won that one game against Connecticut. They've had to travel all over the place. They went out 4 straight games on the road, came home for 1 game, and now they have to go right back out on the road again. It's kind of a lot of travel for Dallas to be involved in. Kind of a ridiculous schedule for them to have to start out with. Although Seattle is coming off that really tough game against Vegas, where they lost against Vegas is definitely one of the best teams in the league still, even though they did lose Plum, who I think is now on LA, I want to say. But Vegas, they're like top 3 players that they had last year are still there, so that core is still there, so they're still one of the best teams. So that was a big game for Seattle there. They've actually played 3 big games in a row, but because they've lost to 3 pretty good teams, that does mean that Seattle is a little bit better than they look, but they are coming off 3 tough games. They also aren't having to travel, though, so they do have a travel edge. So it's a little bit of a tough game to gauge. Seattle's up from 8.5 to 10, though. So I actually lean to all 3 favorites. Indiana being the strongest, obviously, because I gave it out as a play. Minnesota, second strongest. And then Dallas, Seattle is the weakest game of the 3. MLB. The first game up, I'm actually going to recommend second game up. Let's talk about the first game. Colorado at Miami. Colorado actually won yesterday, and I told you on the show yesterday, I said this might be a spot where you actually want to consider looking to Colorado. Or actually, no, I think I said the under, so I was not right about the under, but I don't remember if I said that maybe Colorado would be a lean in that one. But I think I would say it again in this game, man, because we got Colorado at Miami again. Miami's not a good team. Miami is laying, again, I think way too much of a price here, similar to what they were laying yesterday. Like, they were laying about minus 200 yesterday. They're at minus 180 or so today. I mean, it's too much of a price to lay. Now, ESPN has Tanner Gordon listed as the starting pitcher. According to pregame, it's actually Dollander. So we can kind of handicap both of these. Miami actually sitting at minus 171 right now. 78% of tickets, 83% of the cash. They're going to be public. People are going to expect Miami to bounce back here. I'm not so sure that is the way to look here, though. I mean, if it is Tanner Gordon, he hasn't been that bad for Colorado. 4.24 ERA, 1.35 whip. Didn't make it 5 innings in his last game, but it was against the Cubs. That's not an easy matchup. Went at least 6 in the previous 2 against Detroit and the Yankees. So he's faced some pretty difficult lineups, and he's still done decently with a 10-3 strikeout walk ratio. 2 of those games at Coors Field, not allowing more than 4 earned runs in any start. Pretty serviceable for a Colorado pitcher, and Miami has never seen him before. So if it is Gordon, you do have some, let me see, Dollander, come on. Yeah, here we go. You do have, like, if you do have Gordon there are some reasons to like him, but Dollander also has not been seen by Miami before. So he does have that same edge there as well. And Dollander has been okay in his last 2 starts with a 13-5 strikeout walk ratio, which, again, he's walking too many guys, but that strikeout rate is pretty good over the last 2 starts, both on the road. So really, like, 3 of his last 4 starts have actually not been bad. So he's starting to pitch a little bit better. He's a decent pitcher, and he has been a lot better away from Coors, the 4.29 road ERA compared to 8.66 at home. And because Miami hasn't seen either of these pitchers, you might get a little bit of an edge with Colorado. Alcantara is pitching from the Marlins, and he has not been good all year. He really has not been good since his injury issues and surgeries that he's had. I mean, he looks like he's never going to return to form, man, which is really sad. Last outing at San Diego, he had 4 walks and no strikeouts and gave up 6 runs in 4 innings. Not a good performance at all. He's just not doing anything really well right now. 8.47 ERA, 1.67 whip. Does have good numbers in his career against Colorado, and they are a weak offense. 53 at-bats, 170 average, 568 OPS. But I think at this point, you have to take into account his current form more than those historical stats, just because he just has not been getting it done. He's allowed 4 earned runs in every start going all the way back to the 23rd, and he's only allowed fewer than that 3 times all season. So really, really difficult to lay a price like that on Miami in a situation like that. I think Colorado, there might be a little bit of value looking their way. Next up, I am going to give out a play on the total and the under in Houston-Pittsburgh. we start out here, both of these teams were off yesterday, so that means the bats might have cooled off a little bit, although neither of these offenses are really that terrific to begin with. So that's where we start, and that also means both bullpens are rested, so that's good. Houston does have a pretty good bullpen. One of the top bullpens, actually, I would say. Pittsburgh's is not, but they're at least a rested bullpen. So the best relievers are available in this game, so that's all good for an under. I like playing unders in these games where both teams are off yesterday. Pittsburgh's returning home from a road trip out to the West Coast, so that can also cause some distractions. It can lead to some distracted hitting because these guys have to get back to family life. They might get a little bit distracted here. So that's all good. And then the starting pitching matchup, I actually think we might get a little bit of value playing on McCullers to do well because he was so rough to start the season, man. But remember, McCullers was away from baseball for multiple years with injury. 5.89 ERA, 1.69 whip on the season, but he has 20 strikeouts over his last 2 starts, man. And Houston did win his last 3 starts, so he is really starting to pick it up. He really only had one bad start, that one against Cincinnati at home where everybody was threatening his life and whatever, but it's totally ridiculous because he's been pretty good aside from that start. If you throw that start out, his numbers are good. His strikeout rate is way high, well above 1 per inning. Yeah, his walk rate is too high. He's got to get that under control, but a 12-1 strikeout walk ratio last time out, I think he is rounding into form quite nicely. And when he was pitching before his injury, he was a good pitcher. So again, I think he's returning back to something similar to what he was before. And he's facing a weak Pittsburgh Pirates lineup here, so I think he should be good here. Only 3 of them have ever seen him before. They are in 31 at-bats. They're only 258 average off him, 678 OPS. So he's done pretty well against some of the 5.3 strikeout walk ratio isn't that good, but I like how that sets up, and then the other side of it is Paul Skeens. You rarely want to fade this guy. 2.15 ERA, 0.92 whip. He's one of the best pitchers in baseball. Unfortunately, he has a terrible lineup behind him. He's only allowed more than 2 earned runs twice this entire season. In the month of May, he had a 1.91 ERA and 31-14 strikeout walk ratio. So he was walking too many guys, but over his last 3 starts, he has a 24-3 strikeout walk ratio. He's gone in 6 or more innings in all 3 against a bunch of good lineups too. Philadelphia, Milwaukee, Arizona. He faced the Mets before that. He faced the Cubs in that month as well, and 4 of his 6 starts were road starts. So he was facing some of the best lineups in baseball. Faced the Dodgers at the end of April, did well against them too. I don't think I have to belabor this. We know Paul Skeens is an excellent pitcher. And up against Houston, there's no difference there. He also has good numbers against Houston. Very small sample size of 18 at-bats, but they're only 2 for 18 off him lifetime, a 111 average, 405 OPS. He has walked 3 of them compared to 3 strikeouts, but whatever. We're going to go under in this game. I would say it seems obvious, but it doesn't really because I think people are not going to give McCullers enough credit here. We got 62% of the tickets on the under, but 96% of the cash on the under. We do see it being a little bit less juiced here. I saw it at about -115. You want to get it under 7.5 if you can because 7 is a key number in baseball. It breaks the 3-3 tie. I like the under in this game, man. And Houston is starting a road trip as well, and Pittsburgh returning from a road trip, so it is a more advantageous spot for Houston as well. So if you do think McCullers can keep Houston in this game, Houston does have a bullpen advantage when it gets later in the game. So Houston might be worth a look as a pretty sizable underdog here because Skeens, I think, is getting maybe too much credit in the market at this point. Pittsburgh up from -145 to -154. 70% of tickets on them, only 52% of the cash. So Houston could be worth a look a little bit as an underdog as well there, but I like the under. Cubs are at Washington. Washington is also returning home from a road trip that took them to the West Coast, so not a great spot again, distracted spot when you return home from a road trip, but because they are facing the Cubs, who have one of the better records in baseball, do you think Washington's going to really completely overlook the Cubs? Probably not. Cubs should be focused, though, as they're starting a road trip with some nice momentum here, winning whatever that is, 6 of their last 7 games, 9 of their last 11. We know the Cubs are good right now. They have one of the best records in baseball. They got Cade Horton on the mound here, though. Now, neither team played yesterday, so we have rested bullpens here. Both bullpens are not very good, though. Cade Horton is pitching for the Cubs, 3.98 ERA, 1.23 whip. The Cubs have actually won all 4 of his starts, and he's been decent. I mean, he has a 16-4 strikeout walk ratio. None of that is too bad, really. He's been okay. He hasn't allowed more than 3 earned runs in any start. He's gone at least 5 innings in 3 of the last 4. He's only faced one good lineup, though, which was the Mets, which was the start that he didn't go 5 innings, but it was also his first start, and he didn't walk anybody in that game. So Horton has actually been pitching decently as this young pitcher. He might actually have something, and he's going up against a team who I believe has just never seen him before in Washington. So Horton might have a bit of an edge here, man, for that reason. So I think the situation is advantageous for the Cubs. Horton is probably the better pitcher over Trevor Williams. I mean, he's certainly in better form than Williams. Williams, 5.69 ERA in the season, 1.45 whip. That's not good. 5.68 ERA this past month, although 17-6 strikeout walk ratio wasn't that bad. He is coming off a 6-inning shutout of Seattle, so he did pitch better in that game, even though he only had 2 strikeouts. I still don't think he's a very good pitcher, though. But up against the Cubs, even though they're a good hitting lineup, he actually has good numbers against them. In a big 96 at-bat sample size, 28-6 strikeout walk ratio, 208 average, 526 OPS. So Trevor Williams, I never know what to do with this guy, man, because his numbers suck, but he tends to have good matchup numbers in the past against a lot of these offenses. So I still think the situation puts it over the edge. We know the Cubs have the better offense as well, so this is probably a Cubs game. I probably do lean that way. The money is coming in that way, but I don't think it's that strong. And you do have to lay up to minus 150 now, up from minus 135. 85% of the tickets, 86% of the cash. So you do have to join the public if you like the Cubs there as well. The situation does line up for them, but I mean, I'm going to stay away from that. It's kind of a wild card of a game where you really don't know what you're going to get out of really either pitching staff there. Yankees, I think they're in a bad spot returning home from the West Coast. Well, they actually went to Colorado, then the West Coast. So they've had a long road trip. And you know, these long road trips, you return home from the West Coast, tends to be a distracted spot. So I don't love the Yankees at all here. And they are coming off a big win on that Sunday night game against the Dodgers. Huge win. It was a World Series revenge win, even though they did lose the series. So I think this is a bad spot for the Yankees. Cleveland, I believe, is starting a road trip here. Let me see if I can actually pull it up. Yeah, they are. So Cleveland has a little bit of momentum, winning the last 2 games at home, going out on the road. Usually that is a focus spot, and you know they're going to bring focus against the New York Yankees. Tanner Bibby is pitching for them, or Bibby, 3.86 ERA, 1.27 whip. His whip is higher than you would like to see, but he is pitching pretty well. Last month, 3.3 ERA, 25-7 strikeout walk ratio. Gave up 4 runs in the last game against the Dodgers, but I mean that's an okay start. I mean, you know, you're not expected to totally dominate a great offense like the Dodgers. He has been a lot worse on the road, though. 5.13 road ERA compared to 2.43 at home, so that should give you a little bit of pause that he hasn't been good on the road. Against the Yankees, his numbers are okay in his career. 38 at-bats, 12-2 strikeout walk ratio. 263 average is pretty good. 774 OPS, getting a little bit high, though, because he's allowed some extra base hits in there. Bibby is okay against them. So, I mean, that doesn't, necessarily mean that I wouldn't still, lean to Cleveland here, but I don't love it, especially with Carlos Rodon has actually been pitching really well this season. And he was the guy, even professional bettors were shitting on this guy. And I'm like, I hate the Yankees, man, but Carlos Rodon objectively has been a good pitcher this year. 2.6 ERA, 0.94 whip. I mean, a sub-1 whip. That's almost entering elite category, which is ridiculous to say. He's had 10 strikeouts in 2 of his last 4 starts. 33 in the last 4 starts, 38-7 strikeout walk ratio in the month of May with a 1.47 ERA. Coming off 2 shutouts in a row. He had 3 shutout performances in his last 5 outings. I mean, he's kind of been dominant. And the Yankees have won, 6 of his last 8 starts after he had a rough start to the season. So he's in really, really good form right now. So I don't want to fade Rodon here. Up against Cleveland, his numbers are not dominant. They're okay. 135 at-bats. He does have a 23-14 strikeout walk ratio, so that is way too many walks, but 13 of those walks are all between Ramirez and Santana, so it's kind of like he was just pitching around those guys in some instances, so I'm not as worried about the walk number. 259 average allowed, 707 OPS, so even though the situation looks like it does set up nicely for Cleveland. You're getting a huge underdog price with Cleveland. Yankees up for minus 166 to minus 197. 89% of tickets on them, only 62% of the cash. So it does look like the money is kind of agreeing with the Cleveland side. I do think you're having to pay a big tax on the Yankees, man, because it is the Yankees. So the lean would be to Cleveland slightly in this one, just because I think there's value probably in that number. I think the number is just too high, but I really don't want to fade Rodome. I could see Bibby doing decent in this game, so I think an under is not a horrible way to look either. 56% of tickets on the over, but 78% of the cash on the under. Both teams were off yesterday, so again, you got rested bullpens coming into this. Both teams have okay bullpens. Yankees, I would still say, they have a pretty good bullpen. Total has dropped a little bit from 8 juice to the over to 8. It is a hitter-friendly park, though, and Bibby doesn't do well on the road, so those are the things to consider there, but the under might be worth a look in that game. Wind blowing out at Wrigley with bad bullpens. Yeah, you could see an over in that game. Yeah, that is a good point. Mark, thank you for pointing that out. Yeah, I didn't even mention the total in that game, but yeah, that is another thing to point out. Yeah, the total is sitting at 9.5, so you know the wind is such a factor in Wrigley. It's almost like if the wind is blowing out, they just automatically put up a 9.5 total. And if it's blowing in, it's like automatically 7.5 almost. It's crazy. It's almost like they don't even care who the pitchers are. But yes, it could be an over. I would worry a little bit, though, because Cade Horton has actually been pretty good. And Trevor Williams does have good numbers against the Cubs. Both teams were off yesterday, so the teams can use their best relievers in this one, which might kind of negate the fact that the bullpen suck a little bit with the fact that they can use their best relievers here. It wouldn't shock me if it goes over, though, obviously. Let's go to, I might say that I would probably even lean to the over in that game, but I don't, I wouldn't say it's really that strong, though. Up Philadelphia, Toronto, I got to handicap this on the fly. I completely skipped this game when I was handicapping everything, so let's do it on the fly, baby. Toronto, they're on a huge win streak. They won 5 games in a row or whatever that is, staying at home. Looking pretty good right now. And I don't think they're really going to have a letdown against Philadelphia, who is a pretty good team. But Philadelphia, they're in a good focus spot here because they just got swept at home. They lost 4 games in a row, swept by the Brewers, had a terrible stretch of games there where they allowed 9 runs, 6 runs, 17 runs, 5 runs isn't that bad. But remember, they played a doubleheader against Atlanta there. So that next game against Milwaukee, they were in a bad spot, having played 2 games the day before that, and Milwaukee had played no games the day before that. So that wasn't really a game I expected them to win, but they didn't bounce back. Luzardo had a terrible game. I think Philadelphia's in a decent spot here. They're going to be mad after they played really badly at home. They get to just get the hell out of there, not listen to that media that's shitting on you right now. You fell behind the Mets. Get out of there, go on the road, focus on baseball. So this is a pretty focused spot for Philadelphia. They got Christopher Sanchez on the mound here. He's pitching pretty well, although his whip is definitely a little bit too high for me. 3.32 ERA, 1.31 whip. He could be in line for a little bit of regression. He does have too many walks, although his strikeout rate is high. 31 to 11 last month, strikeout walk ratio with a 3.18 ERA. Not bad, obviously, for Sanchez. Let me look at his splits here because I haven't handicapped this game at all. Home and road, not much of a difference there. He's been pretty good both ways. His ERA is almost the same. Up against, what are we talking about? Toronto here. Let's take a look. He does have good numbers in 32 at-bats against Toronto. 7-1 strikeout walk ratio. 156 average. 463 OPS. So I am starting to think we're going to have at least a lean on Philadelphia here. They are in a good spot. He's up against Bowden Francis, who hasn't been pitching great as of late, although he did put in a good start against Texas his last time out. That's not a good offense, but, he's at least kind of kept his team in these games over the last month, even though his ERA was pretty bad, 4.74. 23 to 8 strikeout walk ratio wasn't that bad. Didn't allow more than 4 earned runs in any start, so he's not pitching terribly right now, but he has kind of trailed off a little bit. But his last outing was good, so maybe he is kind of bouncing back a little bit. But he's got to face a good Phillies lineup here. But he does have good numbers against him in 26 at-bats, 6.0 strikeout walk ratio, 231 average, 692 OPS. We do have to worry a little bit about a Phillies bullpen that isn't that good. Toronto's bullpen is, I think, fairly mediocre. So what do we do with this game? I mean, I do think it's a good spot for Philly. Those are really good numbers for Sanchez. I don't know that I really want to fade Francis, though. And the money looks like it is coming in against Philly. Philly is public. 83% of the tickets, only 58% of the cash. They're down from minus 150 to minus 138. So we will not recommend to play on Philly. There is reverse line movement against them. I would say I might lean to the under here, but it does look like the money's coming in on the over. Up from 8, juice the over to 8.5, juice the over. But with both teams off yesterday, bullpen's getting some rest there. Both starting pitchers have good matchup numbers. Francis could put in a good performance here. Sanchez has been good. I kind of don't really agree with the over. It does have 84% of tickets, so it is public, 95% of the cash. Probably I would lean to an under in that game. That's not going to be a play. Anaheim at Boston, my Boston Red Sox. I mean, Richard fits, Dick fits. The Dick did not fit yesterday. I mean, it probably fit, in the Red Sox butthole yesterday, basically, as the Red Sox were terrible yesterday. Fitz especially was awful. He gave up 6 runs, 3 home runs. He put the Red Sox in a 6-0 hole, a 6-0 butthole, right out of the gate after 1 inning, and the Red Sox cut it to 6-5, and they gave everybody hope and almost won the game, and they still lost 7-6. Just awful. I mean, that start ruined the game for the Red Sox. Trout hit a 3-run home run in the game. Awful. I did not expect Fitz to be that bad. Tyler Anderson was exactly as bad as I thought he would be. Couldn't hold on to the lead, but the Red Sox couldn't get it done. Red Sox were returning home from a road trip, though, so it wasn't a good spot, as I pointed out yesterday. Not a good situational spot. The market read was on Anaheim yesterday, and I said that I disagreed with that as far as the pitching matchup was concerned, but the professional bettors seemed like they got that one correct on Anaheim. Got a little bit lucky if they played that one, but Anaheim is an underdog price. I mean, it was worth it to look that way probably, but now the Red Sox are in a better spot because when you return home and you don't do well in that first game back home, get caught in the distractions, you do tend to do better the next time out. They do have Kikuchi is facing them, and the thing about Kikuchi, 3.06 ERA is pretty good, but 1.52 whip is terrible. I mean, this guy's been getting away with tons of walks. Look at this. He's walked at least 4 guys in 3 straight starts. That is really, really horrendous. In those 3 starts, I mean, what are we looking at here? 15 strikeouts and 13 walks. That is awful. So he's been walking a ton of guys, and yet somehow his team won 2 of those games, one against the Dodgers, and he only allowed 1 or fewer earned runs in all 3 of those. I mean, you cannot keep putting guys on base like that and not giving up runs. He had a 30-17 strikeout walk ratio in May and somehow held his ERA at 1.89 during the month, but you're getting a bit lucky if you're doing that, man. I'm sorry. His ground ball rate is not very high either, so something is going to catch up to him. And by the way, Kikuchi has been way worse on the road than at home. He has a 1.33 home ERA and 4.3 on the road, so he is not in good form right now, in my opinion. He's walking a ton of guys. His road statistics are not good this year, and that's been the case throughout his career. He's always been better at home, even though he's had multiple different homes. Against the Red Sox, his numbers are not great. 71 at bats. Has allowed 4 home runs, 2 of them to Devers, although Devers is only 4 for 18 off him. Ref Snyder's 5 for 11 off him, so if you're looking for player props there, maybe. Hits plus runs plus RBIs. He does have a 20-2 strikeout walk ratio against the Red Sox bats, which is good, but 268 average, okay. 752 OPS, a little bit high, so I would say I don't love Kikuchi here, man. Don't love the matchup. Don't love his home road splits. Don't love his recent form. He's up against Brian Bayo, who has been very similar to Kikuchi in that he has a good-looking ERA, 3.83, but his whip is awful, 1.63. I mean, I was arguing with Red Sox fans. They're telling me that Bayo is actually good. No, he sucks. A 1.63 whip. Are you kidding me? He has one of the worst whips in baseball for guys that have pitched this many innings, and he's not even pitching that many innings. He hasn't even made it 5 innings in 5 straight starts. He's gone fewer than 5 innings in all of them. He's walking guys all over the place. 22-16 strikeout walk ratio in the month of May. Awful. Absolutely awful. Walked 5 guys in 2 of those outings. 4.03 ERA, not terrible, I know, but he's not good. He's kind of getting away with it because he is a ground ball pitcher. It's kind of like David Peterson, but even more extreme because Bayo is walking more guys than Peterson does. But it's like these pitchers put guys on base, but because they induce so many ground balls, it's like they get away with it. I don't think it can really continue. Bayo, he's worse than Peterson. Bayo sucks. He's never going to be the guy the Red Sox thought he would be. He does have good numbers against Anaheim, though, in 32 at-bats, 14-3 strikeout walk ratio, 156 average, 385 OPS. So he has really good numbers against Anaheim. So I hate to say it, but I actually think the Red Sox have the better of the pitching matchup here. But the money is disagreeing with me. The Red Sox are down from -140 to -135. 59% of tickets on the Red Sox, 63% of the cash coming in Anaheim. So similar read to yesterday in the market, where it looks like the money is coming in on the Anaheim side. I don't really agree with it. I think it was probably better to do it yesterday because it was the Red Sox return home spot. Yesterday they're in the bounce back spot after the return home spot. So the situation's a little bit better for the Red Sox. Bayo has better matchup numbers. I don't trust Kikuchi on the road. Although I think Bayo has actually been way worse at home too. So actually, you could look to an over in this game. Bayo, has been a little bit worse at home. 4.01 ERA at home, 3.52 on the road. Neither bullpen is very good. I mean, Anaheim's bullpen is one of the worst in baseball. So an over might make sense here as well, although the totals slid down a little bit from 9.5 juice to the under to 9 juice to the over. That's not a huge move, though. 92% of tickets, 100% of the cash on the over. That's probably not accurate, but actually probably the best way to look in that game, honestly, is to the over. I could see both starting pitchers not doing terribly well in that game because they both suck, even though Bayo has good matchup numbers, and the bullpens are not trustworthy, so I could see that going over. It is a pretty hitter-friendly environment in Fenway as well. Andrew, thanks for hanging out. Xerox, good morning to you. Thanks for hanging out. Scott, good morning to everybody. All right. Try to get through this. Milwaukee and Cincinnati. I told you I kind of liked Cincinnati yesterday, and they out-hit Milwaukee, but they lost 3-2. They were returning home from a road trip, although it was a quick road trip. Not a very long one, at least, and it didn't take them that far. So I didn't think the road trip return was that much of a concern yesterday, but Cincinnati might be in a bit more of a bounce back spot here. So I don't hate Cincinnati again here, as again, they did out-hit Milwaukee yesterday. Milwaukee used a lot of their bullpen yesterday, and their bullpen isn't very good. We do have a really good starting pitching matchup here, so I was first looking maybe under in this game. Freddie Peralta is pitching for Milwaukee. He's having a really good season. 2.77 ERA, 1.17 whip. He is walking too many guys, which is a little bit of a concern. 25-12 strikeout walk ratio over the last month. Kept it to a 3.16 ERA. I mean, he's a guy, he does come out and strike out a lot of guys. He gets a little bit wild at times, but he's pretty hard to hit, does strike guys out. Overall, he's a good pitcher. He's Milwaukee's ace, even though their starting rotation isn't very good. Against Cincinnati, he's been really good in the past. 67 at-bats, 28-6 strikeout walk ratio, 194 average, although 604 OPS, a little bit higher than you'd expect. Still not a very high OPS, but he's allowed a one home run to Friedel, who's 6 for 16 off him. Also has a triple and a double off him. So some extra base hits going on in there, but overall, I think Peralta does have a decent matchup here, even though I know this is in Great American Ballpark, which is not an easy ballpark to pitch in. Peralta has been better at home, though, than on the road here. 1.55 home ERA, 3.75 on the road. Neither of those numbers are bad, of course, but he has been a little bit easier to get to on the road. Hunter Green is pitching for Cincinnati. You know, I love this guy. I love betting on him, betting on unders with him. He has a 2.63 ERA this year, 0.91 whip. He's returning from injury, and he had one kind of rough outing when he came back against the Cubs, but they have a good lineup, and he still held them to 2 runs in 4 innings. Came back with a 5-inning, 2-run performance. I think he's getting back into form here. You know, he's now got 2 starts back under his belt here, getting back into rhythm. They weren't really that bad. Green actually has been better at home, surprisingly, in this hitter-friendly park. 1.86 home ERA, 3.51 on the road. Either way, those are really good numbers as well, and he has good numbers for the most part against the Brewers. In 44 at-bats, well, 227 average is good, but he has allowed an 813 OPS, which is a little bit high, because he has a 12-8 strikeout walk ratio, which isn't that good, and 3 home runs allowed, but 2 of them are Yelich, so when it's one guy doing a lot of damage to you, it's possible you can pitch around him. Green also, in his first couple of years in the major leagues, he wasn't that good. And this year, he's starting to become like a really, really good pitcher. So I think you got to weigh what he's doing this year more than what he's done in the past at this point, because he's really like rounding into a really, really good pitcher. So I do think that both starting pitchers have an advantage here. I don't love the bullpens, though, obviously. I don't love either bullpen. Milwaukee's especially is bad. Milwaukee used a lot of their relievers yesterday, so we got to kind of dial it back a little bit as far as that's concerned. So I do like Cincinnati, though, to bounce back, and the money is coming in on them, up from -110 to -123, 79% of the cash on them, 56% of the tickets on Milwaukee. So Cincinnati's in a good spot. I think they do have the better of the two pitchers. The way that I probably would lean more strongly than Cincinnati, though, is a first 5-inning under. Totals dropped a little bit from 8.5 to 8, but we do see 62% of the cash and 62% of tickets, 81% of the cash on the over. But that's full game, and full game in this case I think is a lot different than the first 5, because the first 5 I think could be a little bit of a pitching duel here. But you do have to go under 3.5, or you probably have to pay up to about -125 to get under 4. That's probably the way I would still look in this game, though. There's no way I would want to play the full game under, with Milwaukee having a terrible bullpen, and they used a lot of their relief pitchers yesterday. So I would not want to do that. But under first 5 innings or Cincinnati Reds on the money line, I think are probably the ways to look in that game. I'm not going to make those plays, though. Arizona and Atlanta. Neither of these teams played yesterday. Atlanta is staying at home, coming off losing to the Red Sox, losing to Garrett Crochet there. Arizona's starting a road trip after they broke a loss streak. Arizona's been playing really, really poorly as of late, but I think because they just broke that momentum, they won against Washington. I gave that out as a play on the show, by the way, and they got it done. Now they're starting a road trip, at least having broken that losing momentum. I think this is a positive spot for Arizona. Just get out of there, focus on baseball. Zach Gallen is pitching, and in a way, I kind of expect him to bounce back. I mean, his numbers this year are so much worse than his career numbers. 5.54 ERA and 1.4 whip. I mean, that is awful compared to his career numbers of 3.46 and 1.15, respectively. I mean, this is looking like a major, major outlier of a year here. But again, he's not in very good form right now. He has equal walks and strikeouts over the last 2 starts against not good offenses, really, in St. Louis and especially Pittsburgh. Gave up 4 earned runs and 5 earned runs in those games. That's not good. And he's walked at least 2 guys in every outing, going all the way back to early April. So he has been wild this year as well. Strikeout walk ratio, not good. In the month of May, 31-17 is what that ratio is, and 5.5 ERA. So even though he held opposing offenses to fewer than 1 hit per inning, he's just not getting it done. And his team has lost his last 4 starts. They've lost 7 of the last 10 starts that he's made. It has not been a good season so far for Gallen, but I think he's got to bounce back at some point. He's been better on the road than at home. In Chase Field, hitter-friendly park, he has a 6.3 ERA this year, 4.07 on the road, so he has been better on the road. So maybe that does help Arizona's cause here. Up against the Braves, his numbers are okay. 104 at-bats, 23-7 strikeout walk ratio, 250 average, 736 OPS. So Gallen, honestly, I know he's in bad form, but I don't hate him in this matchup. It seems like it's a spot where Arizona could just kind of focus on baseball. The problem is he's going up against Spencer Strider, who I think is better than his numbers look so far. 4.5 ERA, 1.29 whip. Remember, he had a delayed, he had 1 start earlier in the season, and I think that was delayed. He was injured prior to that. He got injured again, and then he came back again. He had 1 bad start against Washington, although he did only walk 1 guy there. And then not an easy task having to go to Philly. He was wild and walked 4 guys, but he did strike 7 guys out in that game. Only allowed 1 earned run, although he only went 4 1/3 or whatever, 4 2/3 in that game. But I think Strider is kind of rounding back into form. He's having to, regain his form after coming back from injury. But in the past, he has been a pretty good pitcher. He's still young. I mean, I think he is a good pitcher. How good is he going to be in this game is kind of a question mark. Against Arizona in the past, 50 at-bats, 200 average is good, but a 15-11 strikeout walk ratio is a little bit concerning. 724 OPS is a little bit high, but overall, I actually think Strider might do well in this game as well. I believe both teams were off yesterday, so even though Arizona's bullpen is not that good, we are looking at a situation where both bullpens are rested. So I probably lean to Arizona just because I think the spot is more of a focus spot for them. Even though I don't really want to fade Strider here either. So I think the under is probably worth a look as well. And the market seems to agree with both of those, as Atlanta's down from -150 to -135. 67% of tickets on them, but 61% of the cash coming in Arizona. Total up a little bit from 8.5 to 8.5 with juice, but 71% of tickets on the over as opposed to 86% of the cash on the under. I don't love going unders in a game with Arizona's bullpen, but again, at least they're rested. A first 5 under, I wouldn't really be opposed to that either, with expecting just the starting pitchers to do okay. But Gallen is in really bad form right now, so I can't really totally justify it. Texas is at Tampa. Tampa is returning home from a road trip, but it was only a 1-series road trip where they went to Houston, so not really a huge distraction spot. I wouldn't think returning from just a 4-game road trip out to Houston there. Texas is starting a road trip, so it is a focus spot for them coming off a win against St. Louis. So they got some momentum starting a road trip here. Decent spot for Texas. Both teams were off yesterday, so we got 2 pretty good bullpens in this game, and the bullpens are rested, so keeping that in mind. Tyler Mahle is pitching for Texas. He's been shockingly good this year. 1.64 ERA, 1.05 whip. I mean, it seems like there's no way he can keep that up with the amount of walks that he's dealing. 22-11 strikeout walk ratio last month with a 2.1 ERA. Now, he doesn't strike out a lot of guys, so the ratio is bad, but the amount of walks is not too high, although he did walk 6 guys over the last 2 starts there. But in that month, he only had 1 start where he allowed more than 2 earned runs. It was a 3 earned run outing. Granted, it was against a bad White Sox team, but he actually has allowed fewer than 3 earned runs in every start besides that one this entire season, which is insane. He's been really hard to hit, hasn't allowed a lot of hits. His career stats tell you he's probably going to regress at some point. I don't know what's going to happen, man. It may not be here against Tampa Bay lineup that isn't very good. And in 17 at-bats, small sample size against them, he's held to a 118 average and 403 OPS. So even though 5-4 strikeout walk ratio is not good, he's allowed no extra base hits to them. They have not done well at hitting him. So Mahle does seem like he has the upper hand here. He's up against Rasmussen, who is also pitching well right now. 2.33 ERA, 0.93 whip on the season. Rasmussen looking pretty good. 18-6 strikeout walk ratio over the last month or so. 1.98 ERA. So actually similar to Mahle, where he just doesn't have a high strikeout rate, but he doesn't allow a lot of hits. He's getting the job done. Not allowing a lot of runs. He's allowed only more than 3 earned runs 1 time all season. It was a 4 earned run performance at Chase Field, which is not an easy place to pitch. So Rasmussen is also pitching really, really well. He's up against a pretty bad Texas lineup, but Rasmussen he actually has bad matchup numbers against him. So you might be thinking, well, this all seems like an under, and yeah, it does. I probably still lean to the under here because both pitchers are pitching really well right now. We got 2 offenses that aren't that good, but the problem is that Rasmussen has bad matchup numbers against Texas. And Texas actually has been hitting well as of late, so that does worry me a little bit. In 30 at-bats, he's allowed 2 home runs to them, 5.5 strikeout walk ratio, 333 average, 962 OPS. So Texas has actually hit Rasmussen pretty well. Although Rasmussen, he hasn't been good at home, 2.14 ERA this year compared to 2.81 on the road. Neither of those are bad. Mahle actually has been a bit worse on the road, though, than at home. At home, he has a 0.82 ERA, which is almost hard to believe. I mean, it's unbelievable. I mean, he's not going to be able to keep that up. 3.27 on the road, so he has been a bit more hittable, I guess, or I don't know what the best term is for that, but opponents have been able to get to him more on the road. So that gives me those things give me a little bit of hesitation as far as the under. I would still lean to the under in this game, but I don't think it's that strong. 67% of tickets, 86% of the cash on the under. It's flipped from 8 juice to the under to 8 juice to the over to 8 juice to the under. So the market read is on the under, and it is on the Texas side as well, with Texas hitting pretty well as of late. They do probably have the better of the pitching matchup. So with Mahle having really good numbers against Tampa, Rasmussen's numbers not good against Texas. Tampa up for minus 135 to minus 138, but we got 69% of tickets and 93% of the cash coming in on Texas. So Texas is getting the money there as well. And I don't really disagree with either of those things. And the under does still look a little bit tempting because we got two pretty good bullpens in that game. Hi, Nancy. What's up? Thanks, everybody, for hanging out. I like how people hang out even though they don't even like, baseball and sports or whatever. And this time of the year, it's almost all baseball. And I'm getting super autistic about it. I'm going to give out my last play of the day, though, which is a split bet like I did yesterday. It's on the Chicago White Sox. I know, this seems insane. They're up against the Detroit Tigers. The Tigers wrecked them yesterday. We don't know who the Tigers' starting pitcher is going to be, but I think that's actually good for playing the White Sox here. So if you play this game right now, you probably just have to play it as action because there won't be a pitcher specified yet. But I think that's okay because I don't know if you can specify that just Shane Smith must start because you do want that. The fact that Shane Smith is starting is a huge part of this handicap here. So I'm recommending half the bet on the Chicago White Sox run line at plus 1.5 at minus 125 and the other half at plus 135 on the money line. If you want to just go money line and just go with the White Sox trying to win the game, that's fine as well. But Chicago, especially with Smith on the mound and being a good pitcher, Chicago has played some pretty close games where they've lost by a run. So having that kind of in your back pocket there, I think is not a bad thing. As I said yesterday, the White Sox got wrecked yesterday, 13-1. But that's kind of why I actually like this a little bit. You look at their previous games here, a lot of their losses were close. Look at this. Going all the way back to this, they had a couple of wins in a row. I mean, look at all these losses they had. We'll go all the way back to this loss to Texas. They lost by 1 run. Or lost to Seattle, They lost by 1 run after beating them. Then they beat Texas twice, and they lost by 1 run to Texas. They lost by 1 run to the Mets. Lost by 2 runs to the Mets. 1 against the Mets. Lost by 1 to Baltimore. Lost by 2 to Baltimore. Lost by 1 to Baltimore. So it's a bunch of really close losses. So I think that's good for what we have here. And then they just got absolutely destroyed yesterday. But remember, they were coming back from a road trip, so that's usually a bad spot, even though, you shouldn't be distracted when you're facing the Detroit Tigers, who have, I think, maybe the best record in baseball right now. So, you shouldn't be unfocused when you do that, but they got absolutely drilled 13-1 here. And I said I kind of liked the under in this game, so that was my mistake. Jonathan Cannon just did not hold up his end of the bargain. He did not do well, but the reason I like this now, though, is because what the White Sox did is they brought in Bryce Wilson and they just let him get absolutely hammered because the game was over. So they brought in Bryce Wilson to eat up 5 innings. So they basically saved their entire bullpen. They only used Capra, who has made some good movies, I've heard. So I think this is actually good. The White Sox basically saved almost their entire bullpen yesterday. And I know Detroit didn't use much of their bullpen either. But the White Sox bullpen, White Sox definitely have the worst bullpen here. But Detroit, their bullpen is better, but it's a little bit less rested, I would say. And Detroit did use a lot of their bullpen the game before that. So Detroit's bullpen, there might be a few reasons to kind of say, well, maybe their advantage in the bullpen isn't quite as much. And what are we talking about here with Detroit's bullpen? Because it looks like Detroit's bullpen is going to be pitching this entire game because we don't even know who their starting pitcher is going to be. They don't have a starting pitcher announced. So Detroit, and we know that with A.J. Hinch, they go with bullpen games all the time, and that's probably going to be what this is going to be here. So we don't even know what we're going to get from Detroit's pitching staff. And in a way, that could throw off the opposing hitters a little bit because they don't get to get used to hitting a pitcher. They're constantly facing new pitchers, but in a way, it does mean Detroit is going to have to bring out probably some of their lesser pitchers in this game, and whoever starts might not be that good either. And that's going up. Their bullpen game is going up against Shane Smith, who's been the one good thing about this White Sox team pretty much. 2.68 ERA, 1.16 whip. I don't just like him because he's from Danvers, Mass, baby. I don't just like him because he's a homeboy. He's good, even though, yes, I know he walked 5 guys in his last start. Not a good start, but I'm not gonna put that much weight into that one start because it was against the Mets. I know he's had 2 starts in a row where he's allowed 3 earned runs, but I don't think that start against the Mariners was really that bad. He's actually been pitching well all season for the most part. A 28-11 strikeout walk ratio with a 3.28 ERA in May. Not bad. The walk number, was definitely too high, but he does have more strikeouts than innings pitched there. Fewer than 1 hit per inning pitched, and That's been the case over the course of the season as far as the hits. Strikeout rate is still almost 1 per inning on the season. He's only allowed 4 home runs, so he hasn't allowed a lot of the long balls. So the 3 of them have come in the last 3 starts. So yes, I know he's been a little bit worse recently, but one was against the Cubs, one was against the Mets. So, I mean, those were good lineups. Yes, he's facing the Detroit Tigers here. The Tigers' offense isn't quite as good as those 2 lineups, though. So Smith has done pretty... he's faced a couple of lineups that are really difficult to face, and he did okay against the Cubs, so he hasn't done that bad overall. So I'm not as concerned by that, and the Tigers have never seen him before, so I think that's where we get a little bit of an extra edge here, and you have a young pitcher like Smith who's pitching pretty well, and the hitters have never seen him before. It's a little bit of an advantage there, so I like looking to the White Sox in this one, man. Detroit's just sitting at a minus 155 favorite. I think you're probably having to pay a tax on Detroit just because the White Sox kind of suck, and Detroit is one of the teams with one of the best records, so that's what's going on there. I think the value is indeed on the White Sox in that one. That's the only other play I'm going to actually give out here. Kansas City is facing St. Louis again, the natural rivals, if you will. St. Louis beat Kansas City 2 out of 3 the other time they played them in Kansas City. So Kansas City might have a little bit of something to say about that. And St. Louis is returning home from a road trip. St. Louis, I think they started out the season a little bit better than they actually probably are. They did just give up a lot of runs to Texas. It was not a very good offense. They gave up 19 runs in the 2 games where they didn't shut them out, which was a nice Sonny Gray shutout. But in the other 2 games, they didn't do well at all. Liberatore actually did surprisingly poorly, unfortunately for me, because I liked the under in that game. But now St. Louis is returning home from a road trip. Usually that is a distracted spot, but I mean, it is a natural rivalry game, so maybe they won't be totally distracted. I do think Kansas City probably will want the game a little bit more. They're coming off a tough loss to Detroit, so they are coming off a tough series. I don't know if that's going to be like a hangover spot or anything like that, because I do think Kansas City is going to want a little bit of revenge against St. Louis. Michael Lorenzen is pitching for Kansas City here. He hasn't been good this year. 4.33 ERA, 1.4 whip. Those are not good numbers. Gave up 6 runs in his last outing against the Reds. More walks than strikeouts, 3-2 in that outing. Not good. Overall in the last month, 5.34 ERA wasn't good, although 24-6 strikeout walk ratio wasn't that bad, but he gave up 6 home runs over the course of the month and more than 1 hit per inning by quite a bit, so he started pitching pretty poorly. He's actually been better at home than on the road this year, with a 3 home ERA and 5.17 on the road. So he hasn't been good on the road. So even though the spot looks okay for Kansas City, I really don't like Lorenzen in this matchup. And he's up against Andre Palante, who doesn't have great numbers this year either. 4.23 ERA, 1.36 whip. So he's putting too many men on base. He's walked 7 guys in the last 2 games. That's not good. 22-11 in May. Not great. I mean, it's still too many walks. 4.34 ERA. He's basically pretty much been mediocre all season. I mean, he is keeping his team in games, though, because he hasn't allowed more than 4 earned runs in any start. So he's very consistent, at least. Consistently mediocre, Andre Palante. Up against this Royals offense that isn't very good at all, though. 74 at-bats. He's held to a 189 average, although he does have a 15-13 strikeout walk ratio, so that's a bad ratio, but 7 of those walks are India for whatever reason. And remember, if you walk in India, you're having to wade through like diarrhea and stuff, so that's not good. 189 average overall allowed to Kansas City from Palante, 648 OPS. So Palante does have the upper hand in this matchup, in my opinion, but the situation is not in favor of St. Louis. So what do we do with that? Well, you skip it. You skip the game. It's a big old pussy. You got to skip it. I don't even know which way I would lean in this game, to be honest. I usually lean towards the starting pitching matchup a little bit more, but maybe the situation should matter a little bit more. And here's what we've got going on here. St. Louis is down from minus 140 to minus 132. 64% of tickets, 64% of the tickets, but 78% of the cash on St. Louis. So they do have the cash percentage coming in on them. I do think Palante has the better of the pitching matchup, but take from all that what you will. Certainly not going to be a game I'm going to play. JC, hello, what's up? Yes, hello to Scott as well. Hello to everybody. All right. And then let's finish this out here. We got Baltimore at Seattle. Seattle, they're just staying at home after a couple of wins over the Twins. Twinning, I guess, or anti-twinning. I don't know. Seattle could be in a little bit of a letdown spot after that, playing this Baltimore team that's been brutally bad this year. But Baltimore did just sweep the White Sox. Granted, yes, it was the White Sox. It was at Baltimore. Baltimore was favored heavily in every game. Baltimore barely won every game, as I just pointed out. But when you got a little bit of momentum now like Baltimore does, you start a road trip. Both teams were off yesterday. It's not a terrible spot, really, for Baltimore. I think both teams are off for Kansas City, St. Louis as well, by the way, just pointing it out. So that does mean rested bullpens. Although Baltimore's bullpen, not very good. Seattle's bullpen is pretty good. So keeping all that in mind, Baltimore does have their best starter, in my opinion, on the mound is Sugano, 3.23 ERA, 1.06 whip. Again, I always pointed out, like, the advanced metrics guys don't like this guy, and he just continues to get it done for Baltimore. So he just doesn't walk guys, doesn't put a lot of guys on base. He doesn't strike guys out, which is why the advanced metrics guys don't like him. But he gets a lot of guys to hit into outs. 18-4 strikeout walk ratio over the last month, just a low walk rate, 3.48 ERA. He's been pitching well all season pretty much. Has a better road ERA too, 3.67 at home and 2.73 on the road. He's in a very pitcher-friendly environment here on the road at Seattle. And Seattle's never seen him before, so I do think Sugano does have a bit of an edge here, and Baltimore is in a momentum spot here, so I really don't hate the Baltimore side. And now I might start talking myself into the Baltimore side here because George Kirby, I mean, he's better than his numbers look, though. That's the thing. 11.42 ERA, 1.85 whip, miserable. But he's trying to come back from injury. I would say he probably improved from his first start to his second start. He went more innings, but he gave up 3 home runs, although, and that was at home, too, which is kind of crazy, giving up 3 long balls in a not very home run-friendly park. I mean, overall, he does have 8 strikeouts over those 8 2/3 innings, but he gave up 3 walks, 13 hits, and 3 home runs, so he wasn't good there. But typically, Kirby is a lot better than that over his career, so he is going to get better again. 3.56 ERA, 1.11 whip on his career. That's all good. He's usually been better at home, so the thing you have to figure out is, when is he actually going to improve? Is he going to be back to his former self in this game, or is it going to take another game? I don't know. Against Baltimore, 60 at-bats, 14-1 strikeout walk ratio is really good. 250 average allowed is good. 729 OPS is a little bit high. He's allowed 3 home runs to them spread out across the lineup. So what do we do with this game, man? I was thinking about maybe an under, but it looks like the over is very public. 96% of the tickets on the over, 99% of the cash, but I don't think that's really accurate. So I don't hate the under, even though the total's gone up from 7.5 to 7.5 with juice. The odds maker's putting this out at 7.5, basically telling you they think this is going to be a pitching matchup here. I like Baltimore more than the under, probably, though, looking at this game more thoroughly. I think the matchup helps them a little bit better, and the situation is better for Baltimore. Seattle does have the better bullpen and probably actually has the better hitting. But it's, again, it's a matter of, is Kirby going to be, like, is he going to have returned to form yet? But we haven't really seen that yet. So I think we have to say he's still not in good form yet. So Sugano is probably the way to look here, and it is a better spot with Baltimore starting the road trip. Do I want to do it, though? Seattle down from minus 150 to minus 138. 56% of the tickets, 97% of the cash coming in on Baltimore. Again, I think you're still going to get value on Baltimore because people still think they suck, which they do, and beating the White Sox isn't going to really impress people. But, man, this spot with Baltimore's one, like, really consistent pitcher on the mound here, Sugano, even though he's new to Major League Baseball this year, he's just off and running. He's a guy who has had a long baseball career, so he's just not been intimidated, really. You know what? I kind of like it. I think I'm going to give out the extra play. I know that has not worked out for me very well, but I'm going to give out an extra play on the Baltimore side here. Let me just take a look here. And, I mean, bullpen situation, I'm just going to go full game. I mean, even though the Mariners do have the better bullpen, I still think it's a little bit of a wash. We can get Orioles at plus 126. Let's just add it. And then I'll finish off this video here. Orioles plus 126. I would say, let's just do it. So that's going to be the play there for that that game. That'll be a play. The money seems to agree with it, so I like that. San Diego and San Francisco. I gave out San Diego yesterday. That was a return home spot for San Francisco. So again, it was a bad, kind of distracted spot for that reason. The hitting seemed really distracted. But now they're in a bounce back spot because after you have a bad performance in that first game, you usually do better in the second game. Probably especially with the bats, they'll do a bit better. This game is really hard to gauge because Ryan Bergert is pitching, is not Ryan Herbert. Ryan Bergert is pitching for the Padres, or Berger. Is that Ryan Berger? Let's French it up. It's not Berger. I think it's Berger or Bergert, however you want to pronounce that name. He's pitching for the Padres, and I think it's going to be a bullpen game for the Padres because he only made 3 appearances, and they're all 4 appearances, and they're all 1 inning each. He's been fine. He hasn't allowed any runs, and he has a .25 whip, but I don't know if there's a whole lot we can really dig into here. He has 2 strikeouts, no walks, 1 hit, and 4 innings pitched. And that's, I believe, his entire career in Major League Baseball so far. So what are we going to get here? We have no idea. I think it's going to be a bullpen game for San Diego, and they've used a lot of their bullpen over the last 2 days. So I don't really think that's a great setup for San Diego here. So I don't love it. Landon Raup is pitching for San Francisco. 3.54 ERA, nice. 1.43 whip is not nice. He's walking too many guys. But in May, he pitched pretty well with a 21-6 strikeout walk ratio and 1.73 ERA. So I like how Raup has been pitching more recently. But against San Diego, his numbers are pretty rough in 33 at-bats, a 7-6 strikeout walk ratio, home run allowed to Elias Diaz, 303 average, allowed 804 OPS. So I would lean to San Francisco here because I prefer Raup in his current form over whatever bullpen situation is going on with San Diego here. San Francisco, their bullpen is the better. Like, it is a really good bullpen. Both bullpens are good, but if San Diego's bullpen's pitching the whole game, I think San Francisco does have a little bit of a bullpen edge here. Both teams did have to use relievers yesterday, but because Webb gave them 8 innings yesterday, the Giants' bullpen is actually a little bit now rested because they didn't really use much of their bullpen yesterday. So the Giants' bullpen is actually set up a lot nicer in this game now after most of them rested yesterday. So the lean would be to the Giants in this game. But I can't do it with Raup just not doing well at all against San Francisco in his career. The money is coming in on that side, though, up from -142 to -155, 50% of the cash, but 65% of tickets over on the San Diego side. San Diego getting the public action for whatever reason, I guess because they just see a 0 ERA and they don't really know who either of these names are. Minnesota and the A's. We had Minnesota yesterday. That was an extra inning game as well. The A's, I mean, they just obviously did not get the job done. And this is a Lopez versus Lopez battle here. Pablo Lopez is obviously the much more established and better pitcher. 2.75 ERA, 1.04 whip, a 31-7 strikeout walk ratio last month with a 3.25 ERA. They won 4 of his 5 games over the month. Lopez is good, quite obviously. Against the A's, his numbers are good in his career as well. 38 at-bats, 16-2 strikeout walk ratio, 132 average, 359 OPS. Lopez has pretty much dominated the A's. He's actually been better on the road, too, with a 2.38 road ERA and 3.32 at home this year. But, of course, he is having to go into this really hitter-friendly environment here. But I still think Lopez can get the job done here. Pablo Lopez, not the other Lopez here. I know his fly ball rate is a little bit higher than you would like, but that was the case with Joe Ryan, and the Twins were still able to get it done yesterday. We'll see what Lopez can do here, but overall, I do expect him to pitch pretty well. Jacob Lopez, I'm beginning to think that one really good start was kind of an outlier. Overall, 6.32 ERA, 1.85 whip, awful. He's coming off 2 starts that couldn't be any more different, man. He was coming out of the bullpen. Then he made a 7-inning, 1-run performance with an 8-1 strikeout walk ratio against Philly. Then he went on the road and he allowed 7 earned runs in 1 2/3 to Toronto with no strikeouts. So it's like, what do you take away from that? I don't even know because Philly is the better offense. You might expect him to do worse at home because this is a hitter-friendly park at home. Very, very strange. I think there's not a whole lot you can take away from any of that. I think you just have to basically just say Jacob Lopez. I think you just have to say he's just not that good. Minnesota, only Bader has ever seen him before, and he's 0 for 1 off him. There's really not a lot you can take away from that. So I think you kind of have to go back and just look at Lopez's career stats. There's not a whole lot to look at here. He's only made 14 appearances in his entire career. 5.4 ERA, 1.49 whip. So I think you basically just have to say Pablo Lopez is the better pitcher here. But do you want to lay like a minus 195 with Minnesota here? Probably you do not, and it is at least a bounce back spot for the A's here after returning home and doing terribly. But I don't think you can even really play the A's at home in most situations because they are just a really, really bad home team. I just don't think you can do it, man. So I think it's a complete stay away. And, of course, the A's bullpen is horrific as well, which is part of my handicap yesterday. Minnesota does have the better bullpen. And after yesterday, I think kind of similar usage of the bullpens yesterday, so not a whole lot to see. And then we have Mets, Dodgers. This went into extra innings yesterday as well, and the Mets won the game against the Dodgers. Dodgers have lost 2 games in a row now, but now I think it's a bounce-back spot for the Dodgers because that was at least a bad spot for the Dodgers yesterday, coming off that quick turnaround time night game, and the Mets were starting a road trip, so it was a little bit of a better situation for the Mets. Tyler Megill is pitching, or Megill for the Mets here. 3.52 ERA looks pretty good, but a 1.36 whip is not very good. He's got a 33 to 15 strikeout walk ratio in the month of May and a 5.96 ERA. None of that was good, and he walked 10 guys over the last 3 starts, even though he did strike out 20. So his strikeout rate has been really high, but his walk rate is really high, and that's been his thing, man. He doesn't give up that many hits, but he walks too many guys. He's too wild, and he does rack up a ton of strikeouts. He's been significantly worse on the road with a 2.16 home ERA, 4.71 on the road. That's not good. And against the Dodgers, pretty bad numbers in his career. 63 at-bats, 14 to 7 strikeout walk ratio. Not good. Muncy is 4 for 5 with a home run off from Freeman, 6 for 16. Couple of player props there if you like hits plus runs plus RBIs. Betts is also 2 for 5 off him. Overall, he's allowed a 302 average and 800 OPS to the Dodgers. So I do not like Tyler Megill. So it comes down to what do you expect to get out of Clayton Kershaw? Hasn't done well so far this year, trying to come back from injury late in his career. 4.91 ERA, 1.55 whip. But, I mean, he is one of these guys who's a smart pitcher. I think he's probably going to start figuring out how to use his pitchers with, like his velocity being down and whatever. I don't think he's quite done yet. I mean, he's 37, so, I'm kind of expecting him to kind of be like a Chris Sale type of pitcher, although it hasn't totally shown up yet. But he gave up 5 runs in his first start, but then gave up 0 and 1 in his next 2 outings, even though he only went 2 innings in the game against the Mets. And yes, that was against the Mets. So the Mets did just see him. So Kershaw was just seen by the Mets. So, of course, you have to keep that in mind that when the hitters just saw a pitcher, they tend to have a little bit of an advantage. And Megill did not pitch against the Dodgers in that series. So a little bit of a disadvantage to Kershaw. So I don't quite want to come in and try to play the Dodgers here. Has a 6.6 strikeout walk ratio. Not that good either, but he did just come off a 5-inning, 1-run performance against Cleveland. So he did pitch pretty well in that game, and the bullpen completely blew it after he was out of the game. So Kershaw is starting to pitch a little bit better. Again, I don't think he's done yet, but you are having to pay a price for playing the Dodgers with Kershaw because he still has that name. You're paying a price for it. So they're actually down from minus 150 to minus 137. 61% of the tickets on the Dodgers. 63% of the cash coming in on the Mets. So the market read has reversed line movement coming in against Kershaw. Coming in towards the Mets there. The total is really high at 9.5. Kind of expected to be not a pitching duel in this one, even though on the surface it looks like it could be. So the odds makers are kind of telling you they're expecting Kershaw to not do particularly well in this game, and that seems to be the market read here. Although we do have 88% of the tickets on the over and 52% of the cash on the under. I don't know about it, man. I don't like Megill in the matchup, of course, and I think you have to gauge how well you think Kershaw is going to do. And part of me wants Kershaw to just do well against that. He's kind of easier to handicap, but he's very difficult to handicap right now. And again, market read is strongly against it. So take from all that whatever you will. The plays I've given out today, Indiana Fever and WNBA minus the 3.5 or 4 or whatever. Major League Baseball, we're going under a full game, under 7.5, paying a little bit extra with Houston, Pittsburgh. Split bet run line, money line with the Chicago White Sox, half and half. If you want to just go run line or just go money line, I don't hate either of those either. Just like I said yesterday, do what you think is the way that you want to do it. And then I gave out an extra play, Baltimore Orioles, money line. That's going to do it. Tower Gang Toad on Twitter. GiveSendGo.com/TowerGangToad is still up because I've had a little bit of an extra influx of money coming in to support my fundraiser to help me out a little bit. during these trying times here, after I got canceled, essentially. Those of you are probably aware, those of you who watch my show, it's only the regulars watching the show at this point. Patreon.com/Tower Game, support the Tower Game pod as well. We will be on tomorrow night we'll be back with the most hilarious podcast ever, and get Bohemian Grove tickets and come out and see us in late June. That's going to do it for me. Have a good one, guys. Thanks for hanging out, everybody. Jasper, getting you in last minute, baby. Hello, sir. That's right. You want to do a toad tower? You can still tower after I close the stream here. You can do the tower. Thank you, Nancy. Thanks, everybody. That's going to do it. Peace out, guys.